Yes.
Okay.
And you're
S-
live.
I cannot believe how real depression is. And this last week, I had some really fun experiences, but because of my studying with personal development, I've actually been able to figure out that I have a lot more power than I ever expected. And that's why I wanted to talk about responsibility today, is because in my previous life and my previous thoughts and ideas, responsibility was kind of this bad thing. You're responsible for this and for that. But when I take responsibility for my own emotions and for my own actions, it actually gives me a lot of power. So what do you think about that? Have you ever had the bad experience with responsibility?
Well, I guess when you start on that journey, um, you start from you are going on the path of responsibility because this means you're getting out of victimhood. Because when you talk about depression and when you are, I don't know, anxious, sometimes it feels like the world is crashing on you. And taking power is, yeah, I'm responsible for that. I attracted that situation and there is something to learn about this. So, yes, it gives you a lot of power, but at the same time, you're like, okay, what can I do now? I have the power. What do I do now? And it's
Yep.
paradoxical because power, but powerless sometimes too. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I was reading a book this week called Spontaneous Brilliance by Sandra Kavanaugh. And one of the things that she pointed out, and I'd never really thought about this before, but have you ever heard of improv theater?
It means you improvise.
Yes,
Yes,
you
I've heard.
improvise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so everybody comes in, they may have a topic or a theme, but they don't have a specific script. Okay, and she was describing this situation where she was teaching a class and she had a baby that in the class that would wander from one group of improv people to the other, one group of improvisers to the other. And a baby would wander in and they would have to incorporate the baby into the scene. And she said there were some who were so caught up in, nope, I've got a perfect scene. We're set in an office building and we're doing this and we're doing that, and the baby doesn't fit. We can't have a baby come into this situation. And she said it was so interesting because isn't that how life is? That you've got a certain scene set up, you've got a certain activity that you're going for and you're going for, and then all of a sudden life throws a mechanical problem with your car or a baby.
Or a canceled flight or a delayed flight. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm, mhm.
that's exactly it. And so all of a sudden, you have to figure out what you're going to do.
And um, back, I mean, when I was in high school, I was in a theater club or like a glee club at the time. And of
Yep,
course, we had a play. We had to know our lines, but we did some improv games. And
right.
I hated that because it means you're first, when you're a teenager, you're in front of all your peers, classmates. Sometimes you have crushes and things like that. Like, okay. And what you feel is like you don't have power. And at the same time, you have all the power in the world because the attention is on you. And now the floor is yours. But at the same time, it's like
Yep.
I don't have any control of what's gonna happen. And it's like yeah, will I get inspiration or not? And I guess those artists who do those improv games, I admire them so much because it's really getting naked in front of everyone.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It's bearing your whole soul. But what Sandra pointed out is life is that exact way. And so she said the same things that will make an improv actor successful will also make us successful in life. Because if your improv acting partner says, I want to break up, then you have a chance to turn it into a comedy, or you have a chance to turn it into a tragedy, a Romeo and Juliet. You can do anything you want.
You know, what you just said just reminded me that so it was a high school play, and I was playing, well, a couple at the time. It was wartime, and
Oh, okay.
but what it was good. I was playing with my best friend at the time, and really, when you're 16 playing a couple, we had to kiss and things like that. And for a
Oh
16,
yeah.
but I forgot my lines, and I was like, here, the audience. It was black. We just had the light was on us, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I forgot my lines. And what I just said, I'm fed up. And my partner said, okay, just sit here. And actually, it really fitted the text. So he saved me. And I just listened to what came. I was really paralyzed and I didn't know what to do. And despite the fact that I'm a singer, I'm used to being on stage, I was
Mm-hmm.
terrified at that moment. But I just did something and it allowed my partner to react or respond. And yeah.
Uh-huh. So and that goes back to the worst thing that you can do in any situation or in is nothing. The worst thing you can do when you're hit with a change is freeze up. And so you've illustrated the point perfectly, because just choosing to do something is really very important. And so now I'll take you back to the depression that I had earlier in the week. I'm kind of struggling with my boss, and the kids are acting up, and I'm tired, and I'm starting to feel a little sick. And I, I almost, I just, I couldn't figure out what to do. So I started listening to Abraham Hicks.
Mm.
I started listening to somebody who would tell me over and over in multiple different ways, you're in charge. You have the power. You are capable of making a choice. Thank goodness for our mentors, because I was going down into a deep, dark hole that I would not have been able to pull myself out from.
And so, what action did you take when you're okay? I'm in charge. What did you do then?
Well, first of all, I think the first action was I had to be reminded that I'm in charge. The second thing that I was reminded of is there's always more than one way of looking at things. And that's a big one. Oh, it's scary when you think, oh, I have to have this job forever, and I have to go to work, and I have to pay the bills, and I have to uh, give this person respect, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. That's a slave mentality. That's a mentality of no hope, no choice, no options, no power. So later on in the week, I had a conversation with my boss, and I decided, you know what? I could perpetuate this argument that we're having, or I could simply say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry for the part that I played in this. I did this, and I apologize for that. And it really helped the situation with my boss. And then the kids wanted to do this and this and that and the other. And so I looked around and said, okay, what can I do? Because I've got 3 kids at home still. What can I do that will bring me joy? And so I took one of my books with me and we went to the library, and I let them play on the computers and read books of their own. And all of a sudden, I had choices, I had options, I had other possibilities that I had forgotten about.
And you know, I think what you actually did is just connect to your heart. And because when you talk to your boss, and then you said, okay, I got choices and I'm going to do something that brings me joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that, you know, the way we feel when you are in that dark place, it has also to do with the fact that we're not connected to the heart. We are more on
Mm-hmm.
with the intellect, the mental plane, and it's actually tricky. And because we know how thoughts operate, and it's like we have one thought reminds us of that feeling, oh, it's a really dark place, and then oh, and this, and it's like keeping up with that same vicious circle. And I'm a champion at that, and this is really what I have been mastering, trying to learn. And I always think I did a session with it's a French woman. I really love what she does. It's Arwen de la Rio. And she's like, okay, you have the light in you. You know you have that dark place too. And it's normal. It's what we have come
Mm-hmm.
here to transmute. And but she said you have to acknowledge it, but you don't have to stay in it. And I guess you can say it verbally. You know that. You know what Abraham Hicks did tell you. You know that. But
Yep.
when you're in it, it's really hard to know and just to. And Arwen always says you just have to do it. Okay, not like that. And Laurie Ladd says the same. Okay, it's not going to get me now. I know you hear dark thoughts. I acknowledge you. It's okay. I embrace you. Boom. But
Yep.
light. Let there be light. And I guess this is the challenge most of us are going through. And what I do when I'm in your state, when I can, is generally I go to sleep or I cry it out.
Mm.
I go to sleep because when you sleep, your vibration just goes back to the original state.
Yep.
And
Yeah. And honestly, that's one of the things that I did is I took a nap. I listened to meditations. I did basically anything that I could to raise my vibration. Um, and you're right, you forget. Okay, bad things are going to happen. The dark spots are going to come out. But I have the power to choose how long they stay and what to do with them. It's, I have a friend who was in a car accident, and he has been suffering from some severe depression. And so he called me. I've never been in a car accident. That's so I can't understand that. But I have been in that dark place. And so when he called and said, Neil, I'm in a dark place, I went, tell me about it. And before long, and this is what's so crazy. When you share that sort of stuff with other people, before long we were laughing.
to me, yes, this is also one of the most effective solutions is because when you share, there is something happening and it helps you, I guess, transmuting. And yes, just when you
Mm-hmm.
cry with someone, well, first you feel like ashamed, which is still a paradigm we have. And then
Oh
you
yeah.
feel, oh, so lighter. And then you laugh like kids, just like you did with your friend. So just telling someone really close, I guess, or yeah, and this is how you get close to people, actually. I think that true friendships and true relationships are based on letting yourself be open, vulnerable, authentic, and that's also then how you transmit.
And you know, it's very true. It's so true. Because true friendships are those where you can express stuff. Last night, as I was telling you earlier, I'm on vacation. That's why I have such a beautiful studio around me. But I'm on vacation, and I if the wrong people get this, it's going to sound really, really bad. But um, on Friday night, I stopped in to see the wife of a friend, and they have gotten divorced in the last few years. And I absolutely love this lady because she is so talented and so intelligent. And she started telling me all of the bad things about her ex-husband and all of the things that he did. And I went, oh, that's really, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Last night I had dinner with him, and he was telling me, oh, she did this and she did that, and she should have done this and she should have. Oh, that. I'm so sorry. That's so sad to hear. And I haven't told either of them that I went and saw the other one.
Well, now it's a yeah.
But I don't need to get involved in it. It's not my problem, but I can still say, yeah, I empathize. I get your frustration. I feel that. I don't have to agree with it, and I don't have to take it on, but I I can see it. I can see where you're coming from. And you know, being able to do that, and with my friend who was in the car accident, it also helped remind me, Neil, just because the kids dropped a glass of milk on the table or dropped a glass of water on the table doesn't mean that you have to agree that this is terrible or act like this is a catastrophe. Um, and don't get me wrong, my kids have seen me act like it's a catastrophe and act like you did this on purpose just to make my day terrible. But but they've also seen me act in other ways, like, oh, yep, you tested gravity and it still works.
Yeah, but I guess this is also something we learn here, and we all have those paradigms where my parents used to freak out whenever something got broken, and well, now it's
Mm-hmm.
time, okay, it's not a problem anymore. And I guess we all have those phases because in the past, their parents and the parents of the parents, yeah, you have to unlearn. And just like depression, you have to unlearn being in that place, you have to master it and take the
Yeah,
responsibility. Just like when something breaks, you have the power. Okay, it's not going to affect me. And
that's it right there. You have the power and you have the responsibility, and it's the ability to respond.
that's good.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if you and there are so many times, and also I used to be the reactionary dad. Somebody dropped a glass of water or a plate, and oh, I was all over it. The world is going to end. The children must die. The world is over. Um, and one day it occurred to me that I could make a different choice, because just like you said, that was my dad's response. I learned from my dad. So why couldn't I learn from, you know, somebody else, Bob Proctor, or I bet you if one of his kids broke a plate, he did not consider it the end of the world and decide that it was now time to unleash nuclear holocaust onto my children.
Really strong, really strong. But just made me think of the other day on the train. There was a bunch of kids, and they were really loud, and they were just talking out loud what they had. I mean, their thoughts out and crying and laughing, and I could see. But I was really tired, so I wanted to sleep, and I really couldn't sleep. Well, but I could see people's reactions around me to those kids being kids. And it's true. I also used to be
Mm-hmm.
triggered when this happens. And but at the same time, I was like, look at how triggered we all are by this situation, because I think we're not um, programmed to accept, or of course you can be annoyed. I understand, but you see?
So, yeah. And one of the things that I also read this week is about positive confrontations and how if somebody's doing that, you don't have to be rude in order to respond to them and say, hey, you're, I would really like to sleep. You're talking very loudly. I don't care that you're talking. I love that you're talking, but would you please keep it down? And I think there's this social taboo that you either have to blow up at people or take it.
Hmm. Well, generally, I would be the kind of person that when I have a problem, I'm gonna go and say, hey, could you please? But here, I saw how sometimes parents struggle too, because kids sometimes you tell them things, sometimes yeah, they just have that emotion that needs to get out. And
Yep,
actually you have to let them express their emotions, because if not, later on there might be some issues.
yep.
Well, I don't have any kids, so I'm not really in a position to judge or anything. But yeah, but this specific time was like, even the mother, I think she was powerless, the father too. And yeah, I only had like 30 minutes left on the train. So, but yeah, sometimes it just,
Yeah. And sometimes you just have to figure out, is it really worth reacting to? Is it worth responding to? Or, yes, I know I'm inconveniencing someone for a half an hour, but ultimately those people are going to be able to go home and go about their lives. And see, this is the thing. I used to take the responsibility for other people's emotions. And then I'd yell at my kids so that they would be quiet, so that the people on the train would could be comfortable. While I'm upset, my kids are now upset, and the person on the train probably doesn't even really notice or care. They're more upset because of the way I've reacted than because of the kids talking.
like there is a whole show here. So who are we going to be mad at? The kids or the dad?
Exactly. I've seen in my church, I've seen people get frustrated with the kids of another family and then turn on the parents and say, "Oh, you're not controlling your kids, but then you blew up and you spanked them. Oh, that's so terrible. How can you do that?" Well, so the parents are kind of in a catch 22. There's a no win situation. If they do something, they lose. If they don't do something, they lose. And I think that's not the parents' problem. It's the people who are judging them who need to
Hmm.
take responsibility for their own feelings And the parents need to take responsibility for, okay, when we get home and we're not in this situation, we're going to have a talk about how to act in public. When I'm not being triggered, when I don't want to yell and scream and, lash out, then we will have a conversation.
And does lashing out or yelling really help? Because I don't think so. And you said it's the people's responsibility. What does it trigger me when I see those kids yelling or just being kids? And because I was thinking, oh, how was it during my childhood? How would I react? I don't know. And I don't have any memories of when I was a child, but yeah. So
Well, and so here's the other book, because I've on vacation I like to read. Here's the other book that I was reading about, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, in which it reminds me I'm triggered. You may have been triggered because my parents made me be quiet, so somebody should make these kids be quiet.
excellent point.
And somebody is triggered because, well, this person is spanking their child. Well, I was spanked as a child and it really bothered me. Well, so you're being triggered by something that somebody else does. And I guess that was the thing. I was reading about controlling people in another book, and I was threatening, oh, my boss is such a controlling person. She controls me this and she controls me that, and she tells me how to do this. I don't want to be controlled anymore. And then I began to think, I controlled my children. That's something I do. And before long, I called my daughter and apologized to her because I recognized that thing that I was so upset about with my boss is something I do.
And it's like that all the time, but we just don't see it.
Well, we don't, because so often we're not looking for it. We're not looking for the place where we have the responsibility, where we take it.
But we're not taught to be in charge. We're not taught to look at our own responsibility, And I guess this is and this is also what's happening, I think, in this world that is changing. People are really pushed to take responsibility for their own lives when they're not satisfied with the situation. And in France, we are the champions. We are, we have like strikes, and currently it's the farmers' situation. And but they have valid points, and I guess it's essential. But also at the same time, how do you find solutions? You can be mad against people, against the government, against any authority that you judge unfair. But at the same time, you have the power and even that responsibility to look for other ways to do things and to make things change. And because when you nourish that rage, does it really help you? Sometimes you might get some results, but generally in the end, and that's how, politics and the world, how it works, they will find another way because that's the game too. They have something,
Yep.
There are two sides, both parties, just like in the couple. But both parties, well, there is always a way, and you have sometimes to elevate. And that's also the game here. You have to elevate your frequency, but that might seem far-fetched regarding those situations, but actually it works. And that's what Bob Proctor says. When a system is not working, don't pay any attention to that system. Just create another one that makes the old one obsolete.
Yes.
That's the real game. But this game takes a lot of investment, personal investment, and responsibility.
Exactly. And in my opinion, it takes a lot of intuition. And the responsibility is to turn inside, because I am thoroughly convinced the reason that I had depression this last week is because I cut myself off from my inspiration, from my intuition. And every time I cut myself off from my intuition, I start to get mad at other people. Well, it's your fault. You're crazy. You're stupid. You're bad. You're doing something wrong.
I guess this is just the alignment that Abraham Hicks talks about, because when you're aligned, when you're connected to your higher self, nobody is a problem. You're just focused on what you have to do. You're connected, you're guided, you know?
Yes.
But even if it's
Yes.
dark, if there are people pressuring you, you just don't care. You're focused. And I guess, but it takes training to get to that place and to connect to that place.
It does, because we've been trained to focus outward. We've been trained to rely on somebody else to tell us we're okay. We've been trained to have a church authority say that you're worthy, to have a doctor say that you're healthy, to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend tell us we're good looking or that we're desirable. You know, I've had so much fun when I remember to do it, looking in the mirror and telling myself, I love me. I'm so good looking. I am intelligent. I'm capable. I don't need my boss to tell me that I'm capable.
I think this should be taught in schools because, you know, to me, what that practice, it feels weird for me because I'm not used to doing it. And I think I should do it more often. And but this is something, if you want to take responsibility, feel your power, you first have to really be I don't know if it's at ease or just yeah, recognize who you are, see your
Mm-hmm.
qualities, your power, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
You know, I was talking to my sister yesterday because we're picking out a new book for our book club. And she she and I were discussing all of the different books that we could read. And so I named off three or four that I thought were really cool. And she said, "Oh my goodness, I have those on my bookcase." And I said, "Oh yeah, and I really loved this one and that one and those." And she said, "Oh wow, I've read those." And she said, "You know, Neil, when I talk to you, I realize how much I've actually accomplished because I have these books. I feel bad because I haven't read the 5,000 books that are available. But when I talk to you, I'm reminded I have read hundreds of books that I have. I have gained something from each one." And and she keeps going. She's done this several times. And I'm reminded, you know, I go through and actually keep track of the books I read so that I can go back and say, you know, I've read this and this and this. I keep a manifestation journal. I've manifested this and this and this. I have manifested these things. So I know I have power.
But yes, it seems that sometimes we forget. And this is also because, like, when you're too much in darkness, but also we're sometimes too much in our lives and in our thoughts or in that mental activity. And it does not allow us to get out of our personal movie and see what's happened. And
Yep.
yeah, sometimes I also feel like this, and I'm like, okay, but what have I really done this year? What have I accomplished? And And sometimes, yeah, you need the external world also to, hey, say, hey, you've done this, you've done that, even because for you, for example, it becomes a nothing because when you're used to working on yourself and trying to better who you are and what you do, um, you're used to taking these steps. And so you don't see them anymore because it becomes a habit. And then
Yeah.
you actually have to take bigger steps to really feel like, okay, I'm moving forward. I'm doing, you see?
Hmm. Yeah. No, one of the things that I love most about Deborah Poneman is that she encourages us to look at our wins. Don't just set goals every Sunday. Look at your wins. What did you accomplish this last week? What did you accomplish this last month? What did you accomplish this last year? Look at your win before you set your goals. And it's like playing with gratitude. You get what you think about.
But also, when you say look at your wins, totally agree. But there are some wins that are not material. Do not belong to the material world. And currently, just what you
Yeah.
said, when you deal with the depression phase, and how do you see that as a win? You forget that's an actual win, and we have that, but this does not count in our paradigm. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes the wins you have are some of the biggest you'll ever have, but it's part of your emotional journey, your I don't know how to say that because changing a paradigm takes time and
Uh-huh.
you cannot see it. It's like the mind. You cannot see your mind. Yeah. And
So you're absolutely right. And this goes back to like the second or third episode that we did, in which we were talking about goals. And money is easy. Big house, that's obvious. Cars, that's easily seen. But to say, I feel good about myself, I looked in a mirror and didn't cringe. That's a goal worth setting. And in my opinion, that's a goal that's even more important than the house or the car or the bank account. Because and the other day I found that I was reading a book and it had a chapter on relationships. And I almost went, I'm fine. My wife's fine. My kids are fine. I don't need to find a relationship. And then it went in and it said you have relationships with yourself, with money, with your health. You have a relationship with your physical body, your mental body, your spiritual body, your pain body. You have relationships with all of these. Maybe you'd better learn how to be in healthy relationships. And I was like, oh, that's a good point.
and actually, the quality of your relationship with yourself and all those bodies and yeah,
Yep.
the result of that relationship is the world you manifest around. So yeah, like you said, I think the most important thing in life you have to work is your relationship with yourself. And like you said, I think one of the goal that could be, yeah, one of the goals that could be really important for me is that doing that exercise, looking in the mirror, say, okay, I'm good looking, I'm good, I feel good, things like that. And
Yeah.
because, yeah, I think this is crucial.
Yeah. And, even Napoleon Hill, Andrew Carnegie was the one who taught Napoleon Hill to do that. With his saying, I'm going to beat you at the post and yeah, I'm going to win. But, and Louise Hay, by the way, I finished her book, You Can Heal Your Life. So I'm almost on track for a book a week from my library.
Good.
um, but getting in the study to me really brings out my power. and options that I had forgotten that I had. And when I study, I see options, and I acknowledge my power, and I'm reminded of my accomplishments. That's one of the reasons that I keep doing it. And one of the reasons that I keep coming back to you is because you remind me, you've accomplished this, you've done that. And I remind you of the same thing.
Mm.
And isn't that beautiful and awesome and wonderful?
And I think, yeah, just the fact that we show up, it's really important, for example, for our subconscious mind, because we said, okay, Neil, we're going to do that. We're going to go live. We're going to do our meetings, and we're going to do them every week, well, every 2 week online now.
Mhm.
But we're doing it. And I heard, I don't know, it's too bad I can't remember her name because her content is so, she wrote a book, it's called Be Seen. I haven't read it, but from what I
Okay.
hear when she talks, and she said, when you don't do things you said you would do, you're kind of saying to your subconscious mind, okay, I'm failing myself, you know? And
Yeah.
just the fact that we do, it's not a big thing. It's just showing up every Sunday, but it's so important because like it's responsibility and it's discipline, and this is how you get things done. And of course, you need inspiration, but that discipline has to be there. And when you're inspired and when you love what you do, and we love doing this. So for us, it's not even
Yeah.
a question. It's just, yay, let's go live, let's do our thing. And yeah, so connect. Yeah.
I would rather be here than on a roller coaster or sunning on the beach. I get so much out of the interaction. I learn so much because just as we've been talking, I've been reminded of books that I've read, mentors that I've listened to, and ideas, and it builds me up in preparation for this coming week. And it's absolutely amazing.
Mhm. It is. And it's just getting us emotionally involved with what we want. And like, it's really adjusting to that frequency. It's keeping connected to it because during the week, sometimes we disconnect, which is totally normal. And just, yeah, we just reconnect with it.
Yep.
Hmm.
Well, with that, Delphine, I would suggest that we say goodbye to our fans and
Yes.
all those who are listening, because I've got to pack a car and leave my vacation now.
All right. Well, I'm going to say goodbye too, and we'll see you in 2 weeks again, and we'll see each other in